I was reading about this yesterday, and I found out about the fact that ITDC recently posted really strong growth numbers, right? A 54% quarter-on-quarter growth, and a very healthy year-on-year rise um, in growth and turnover. It's obviously a great sign of momentum and operational excellence. And I would just like to hear from you, and also for the rest of the people in the room, what do you think has led to this momentum, and how do you see this play out long-term in India's tourism vision? And as we mentioned, this session today is about kind of building that competitive tourism edge. So how do you think that pans out for us?
Very good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for your very gracious words and for inviting me here. Those were a lot of questions actually roped in one, so let me see how best I can answer that. So I'm really grateful actually to God and Sarkar, as I keep saying, for giving me this opportunity to lead ITDC, from its 60th year onwards to the future that we have. For the simple reason that I think that, 60 is a great number. In government, we superannuate at 60. And then we play our second innings. So how I see ITDC is that, yes, this has been a difficult year. We had Operation Sindhur in the first quarter, and there was a downturn in numbers. We were just emerging from the pre-COVID, post-COVID pandemic downfalls that we had in terms of numbers. But I think we've kind of, both India as a country, because I always keep saying that the eye of ITDC stands very strongly with the eye of Incredible India. So anything that happens with the eye of Incredible India also impacts ITDC in that way. And despite that, we've managed to show very robust performance, if I can say, in quarter 3, and which is not just quarter to quarter, but also on compared from last year. But I think it's about consistency, right? We have, ever since I joined, we've had our shares trending about, on an average, 100 rupee, over what was last year. So I think that has also got reflected in the kind of efforts that we've put up in building the governance structure of ITDC, poised to future preparedness, if I can say. So we stand at an inflection point where we have the lived legacy of about 60 years, and that lived legacy having overcome a lot of challenges, because we can't be on an even keel. Having dealt with all those challenges, we've not just become only resilient. I think we are pretty much like Nasib Taleb, if I can borrow from his parlance and say that having overcome all that we have, having seen and lived all that we have, we've kind of become anti-fragile in many ways. So I think that is the foundation, that is the legacy that we are working on. But the times today have completely changed. Our lived experience is of a very, very physical, manual age. Today, if you look at the new generation, so I think generational policy making is the long view of things, basically, or the macro view of things. So if you look at that, you will find that 79% of our customers, clients, tourists, travelers, they make decisions which are based on what you call data insights, business insights, technology, social media platforms. And I think that needed to be integrated in the way that we do business. So that is one. Getting all the three devs, as I call them, the T of technology, business insights, and marketing, because I think marketing is kind of looked at as a dirty, country cousin of technology and data, but I think we need to integrate these three devs, and because of which we set up what is called the Ashok Business Insights, our latest strategic business unit in 2025. So that is one thing. The second is looking at, today, just like you have algorithms and coding in computer, today it is the age of integration and aggregation. You have channel partners today. And all that is held together very strongly, not just by technology, not just by evidence-based intervention, but also how you draft your smart contracts. There's a lot of legality involved in contracting. I've worked with a lot of collaborators who are sitting here, and I think that fine word. So what we've invested in the last 9 months doing in ITDC is getting these foundations right, for the simple reason so we can free up time and make our assets work for us, right? The other thing that people ask us in the government is that this is a common problem, not just with ITDC, but with everywhere, which we need to overcome. And the foundational work addresses this. That is speeding, scaling, and doing it within the scaffold of what you called the statutory rules, because as a government entity, that's very important. So you can run a long race, a steeplechase, not a marathon, not 100 meters. So we've prepared our organization to be relevant for the future. And that is, I think, very foundational capacity building, looking at governance. And one word about technology. See, technology has always been there. I mean, I don't get very awed by technology. I always say the technology of the present time, the technology anticipating for the future, that is important. Fire was also once a technology, steam engine, that got industrialization 1.0, and we are at 4.0 today, was also technology. So how do we adapt to that technology, and how do we build niche use cases for where to put artificial intelligence so that technology works for us and becomes an enabler? I think those are the things that we've been working on for the last 9 months. And some of the things that we've managed to do have got reflected in what you just mentioned. So I take that as a compliment for ITDC. Thank you.
It really is, and so many things I think you touched upon, and so many things I want to double click on, but I'll pick on the point of generational policy making and also the technology bit of it. The fact that we are all in this seminal shift as a country, and as technology is transforming our lives, right? We are on the heels of the India AI Impact Summit that just wrapped up. And now more than ever, we're discussing how public-private partnerships can play a larger role. And I know you touched upon it a little bit already, but just moving into the future, how do you see, and if there's any examples you could quote, that'll be amazing, on what public-private partnerships can look like, how they can shape the future of this tourism. We have some very ambitious goals for India's tourism ecosystem going into 2047, Viksit Bharat, in addition to how tourism will play a larger role in it. So what can you say to that about, obviously we have many private players here in the room and partners here. How can we do better? How can we partner with you better? And how can we all just come together to harness technology in the best possible manner for us going forth?
So let us also look at what are the areas, let's say, where we can all collaborate. So Government of India believes very strongly that we need to break silos and we need to collaborate. And I've got this fantastic opportunity where we've exactly done that. So those of you who attended our event of the twin anniversary celebrations on the 13th would have realized that everything that we did, to have on stage 3 ministers, 4 secretaries from different departments was not optics. To be very clear, it is, optics could be what you can say a byproduct of the will to want collaboration, to showcase the collaboration, but it was more substantial for the simple reason those were collaborators with whom we've really, really worked in the last 9 months to get things out. Say, for example, I just wanted to give you an example. We are not just hotels, by the way. ITDC is 8 strategic units. We are a hotel. We are a travel online aggregator. So we also have channel partners, and we are also channel partners to a lot of people. So aggregation. Then we are a PCO, a professional conference organizer or an event organizer like an Informa Market, etc. Then we are also a brand positioning, marketing arm. And what we were doing for ourselves, now we are stretching out and doing for other people, right? Besides this, we are also engineering consulting. We are doing all the illumination of heritage monuments, the sound and lights shows, 4 of which we inaugurated recently. So like that, and we also have business insights. So we have huge amount of collaboration that can happen. We've recently revamped our loyalty program. The gift cards, the vouchers that we launched were also part of that loyalty program, because this is connecting the dots. How do we do asset optimization? And asset optimization is not just ITDC. So what we are concentrating is, see, physical infrastructure is great in the country and in ITDC. The digital stack the country has built is fantastic. What we are working right now is building the country's and ITDC's cognitive stack, which is where all the collaborations will come. I was just speaking to the regional head of Marriott, and I told him there are opportunities, networking opportunities to be able to work together with the Marriott group of hotels, which is an IPCL model, right? as channel partners, vice versa. Then we also have huge amount of tech integration for that matter. All the experiences that you were talking of in the earlier panel before this, all of that can be onboarded in my. We've just started Visa. We've done a collaboration with the VFS, and we've started Visa apostille services. We are also looking at the GDS inventory hotels, because most of them are now moving on to concierge services at various international airports. So I'm also now looking at integrating those people to be able to provide to my customers concierge services across international airports, which basically means that if you're a high profile person and you want to travel and be received at Dubai, we will have partners who will be able to deliver that, to pick up your bag from the carousel to put you in a bus that connects Terminal 1 to Terminal 2. So we don't do all these services, but we get the right kind of people to onboard with us and to be able to provide these services to us. And then by integrating what we have in terms of assets, we have this huge wedding arcade that we are building. So we, like any other hotel, we had 29 spaces which were available for commercial purposes, for shopping. So we have about 350 plus weddings in Ashok Hotel. So we decided that we will, when we tender out, so out of the 29, we've tendered out 19. And those have been picked up by jewelers, by trousseau people, salons have come, which basically means that we are aligning our shopping arcade to facilitate our Wed in India, Meet in India events that happen in Ashok. And then the loyalty program would also ensure that if you're a loyalty member of ITDC, then you get discounts through all these services. So huge amount of integration. I think today the nuance of how you do travel, tourism and hospitality lies in the layers that you can build up. And these layers all ride on the contracts that you can do and the incentivization that you can build around your assets. So it's not just the physicality of the assets, it's the cognitive stack of the assets. And I think that is what I understand by being future ready, because the contract once built in will enable you to get more business. That is, I think, how I look at ITDC and partnership with other people. The experiential metaverse. When people talk, just one, I think I will be very contrarian in my views here, and stand by with full responsibility of what I'm going to say here. When people talk of the immersive experience, the immediate mathematical equation is, it means getting tech, getting digitalization. But a seamless travel where I'm received at the airport mindlessly, I don't even have to apply my mind, and right from the booking to the hotel to the pickup to the welcome is as immersive, is also the metaverse that I would want to extend to my tourists, because tourism does not just ride on culture and commerce and infrastructure, it also rides on the perception and the sentiment that you can cultivate in the people, and that is from where you will get the brand loyalty. And I think we are working on building that stack for ITDC and for Incredible India, of course.
That's actually the perfect segue for us to get into the next question. You mentioned cognitive stack, and so relevant. And you mentioned about how we have a digital infrastructure that's fairly robust. We already have a huge partnership sort of ecosystem that's already working very well. And that brings me to a future-ready workforce, skilling, capacity building at a human level, right? And yourself sound so passionate about it. Something that I think a lot of us in this room as industry partners, and I also know as the ministry, and you've had a long legacy of kind of working in the tourism ecosystem by and large, have had. So how do you suggest that we kind of come together and build this future-ready workforce? So how can this cognitive stack, as you call it, kind of be improved and worked upon? And also, again, there's a responsibility and state capacity of institutions like ITDC and the ministry, but there's also, partners who can come and complement it as opposed to kind of just doing one-off activations. So how do you suggest we do that? How do we build this future-ready workforce? India already has a name for itself as being extremely hospitable, world-class, and how do we kind of scale that, as you mentioned already? Yeah.
I think we are kind of, you're asking questions that make chronological sense as much as they do otherwise. But yes, so the cognitive stack depends very much on the people. So capacity building, the C of cognitives and the C of capacity building will have to go hand in hand. And that involves governance, because an organization, for that matter, is not just defined by an organization, it is defined by the people, and it's people that we are planning to integrate when we talk of increasing the footfalls of people coming to India, wanting to come to India. So I think that is very important. And if you've been reading the travel trade magazines, you'll come to know that the CEO of WTTC, which is the World Travel and Tourism Council, Gloria Guevara, recently said, and which is very right, that the travel and tourism industry employs 40% women. And if you look at just the hospitality sector, the numbers are even more aspirational, it's 52%. If you look at ITDC, in top leadership positions, because we have about 18 divisions, we have 29% of those divisions, which leadership positions being occupied by women. I think one conversation when we talk of skilling, because if you look at the recent budget and if you look at the last year's budget when I was DG Tourism, you will realize the government's focus, and I think some of the people, I think either Mr. Avasthi or Mr. Yadav, who were here in the earlier session, also spoke about it, that what are we doing through tourism? Tourism is not just standalone for the sake of vanity, no, because we are very aspirational. The Honorable Prime Minister speaks of leading the country by 2047 to a $30 trillion economy, a developed country where tourism will have at least 10% stake in terms of contribution to GDP, which basically means 3 trillion. How is, that Pillion Rise says innovate, collaborate, accelerate growth? I will say that when the Honorable Prime Minister speaks about growth, he is not just speaking of growth for the sake of growth or development. What he says that growth has to be pro-people, pro-planet, and pro-per capita prosperity of each and every 1.5 billion people here. That I think is how you will define growth. So growth cannot be just in terms of numbers. Growth also has to mean holistic development for whom? For the small. I am reminded of Schumacher, who wrote this beautiful book in, I think, 1973, called Small is Beautiful. He said human beings are small, and so we must aim at small. And small basically meant local. Small meant working with women, working with youth, working with MSMEs. So I think that is important. Skilling is absolutely foundational to the work that we do. We recently changed our understanding, our vision for our IHM Ashok, and we have entered into an MOU with the Ministry of Tribal Affairs, where we'll be training 1,500 homestay owners. It's a very ambitious program of the Government of India to set up 1 lakh homestays in the country across Pan-India. And out of that, for the next 2 years, we will be training 1,500 of those as a pilot to tell them at IHM Ashok, to introduce them to global service standards, which are served in an authentic, with a touch of authentic Indian, our civilizational core values, if I can string all of that together and serve it on a platter, because I think we have the right skill sets to be able to do that. And that is very foundational. But skilling doesn't really mean skilling in this manner alone. Skilling also means raising the profile of your own staff. In the last 9.5 months, every month, we have done industry consultations. We have upped the ante for our own people to expose them to how the travel, tourism, and hospitality sector is working in real life, using technology, data, and to expose them to what the industry is doing so that we can also leverage our comparative advantage. And today, the comparative advantage, very much like the term that is used in economics, relies on not just competitive, but also cooperative, not just federalism, but also partnership with all the private sector players. Because consolidation and not conquest is what will propel us into the future. The more collaborations that you can build, I think the more skin in the game that you can have of others, I think that is what is going to propel us forward and have many more stakeholders rooting for ITDC. Because I think we also have certain skills that can benefit our other collaborators. Yes.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much. You mentioned the budget, and and in the interest of being chronological, as you mentioned, I'm trying to be. So last year, the budget heavily focused on, again, prosperity for all, and especially the tourism section. If you look at it, right, there were grants announced for individual homeowners or people who wanted to get involved in the tourism ecosystem. And this year, there was this very large focus placed on experience-first travel and how we can really have a person come to India and not just kind of stay, but also experience what local life looks like, to experience what fabrics and culture and museums, and really immerse themselves into the entire bit. And this is a question I really personally wanted to fit into this session, because I remember the last time we met, we had a very interesting conversation on museums and how you're very passionate about museums. And I think that brings me to the, I would say, second last question, which is, how do we kind of really bring to reality this vision of experience-first travel? There's been so much chatter about this just between morning and right now, on kind of integrating so much more of our culture, our heritage, fabrics. There are different type of cooking techniques. And I feel like somewhere down the line, while we offer really deep and rich hospitality, there's ways for us to kind of add this value add into the overall experience of an international or even a domestic tourist going to a different state. How do you suggest we do that? And again, if there's any examples that come to your mind just over the years, and any best practices that we can take in this room away from?
So I think it's a question which I not like to answer in a superficial manner. I like to take a little bit of your time to explain that one has to understand the philosophy behind why experiential, okay? See, any country, and this is not specific to India, numbers and stories. I don't know how many of you have read a book by Yuval Noah Harari called Nexus. It is a very great template for why storytelling is fundamental to how the neurocircuitry of a brain actually functions. And because the next age and all that artificial intelligence and the commercialization of the IoT that is going to happen, where in the future, we will have 7Ds, where you'll not probably need gadgets to be able to, telekinesis is what they are saying will be the next age. And thereafter, of course, I keep saying the age of imagination. So having said all that, what is fundamental is that how do we tell the story of India? The story of India, and I have been in talks with The Economist and a lot of other Time magazines, and they tell me, and it is based on data, they tell me that why inserting a tourism ad in these magazines work, because these people, the kind of subscriptions that these people have, those are the people who use their right brain, use a lot of logic, a lot of numbers, and the visual storytelling with a few numbers which tell the story of India. For example, if I were to give you one number to tell you the story of India, it'll make sense to you more than a picture. It'll be more convincing. I'm using data from 2024, and this is UN tourism data. The UN tourism data says that in 2024, about 1,465 million people crisscrossed the entire globe, right? I let that number settle, which means that people moving from one continent, one country, one city to the other, the total number is 1,465. If I look at the same time frame in our country and give you a number of how many people did the same crisscrossing, the same methodology, the same time frame, and the same, so comparison, apples to apples, not apples to oranges. Within the country, we had 2,900 million people do that, which is almost double the number that crisscrossed the globe. And what do you think attracted that number? That number was all our mega projects, Ujjain, Kashi, Ayodhya, which is a lot of pilgrimage tourism. If I just go back and tell you the story of how we need to think, the word tourist came into being only in 1911. You can go check your dictionary. Tourism came about in 1722. Travelers is something, we know that Queen Sheba was the first global traveler. So, and you can just Google and figure out Queen Sheba's existence in Alexandria, Egypt, and you will figure out that travel is something which predates tourist. And what is the difference between, because there's a UN tourism definition of what is a traveler and what is a tourist. Any traveler who stays overnight for more than 24 hours in a place is a tourist. And what is a traveler? A traveler is pretty much like an anthropologist who wants to understand the culture of the place, wants to interact with people, wants to do gastronomy, wants to wear the same clothes. He is not a vanity tourist who comes and then goes and does vanity things. So I think the whole act of travel, you can go back to Fahen and Hunsen and you can figure out, they also had what you call visas at that point in time to travel. But what is the difference between a traveler and a tourist is exactly how we need to frame our policy. The whole act of travel or tourism itself innately is an act of consumption. But how we can match that act of consumption to ensure that it does not leave its carbon footprints on the globe. So, Travel for Life 2023, Honorable Prime Minister gave us, and that is a frame of reference that he has given us. You know, we have to look at how we posit travel and tourism from this frame of reference of leaving zero impact, and that is why the ESG governance becomes very important. So when you talk of experiential tourism and footfalls, I'm very, very wary of using the footfall, only the quantitative metrics as a measure of success. No, if I can get 5 people instead of 50 to my museum and make those people spend 5 hours in my museum vis-a-vis 2 minutes of a student line of 50 who just, rummage through the museum and not spend time. And if I can get those 5 people interested in buying stuff from my souvenir shop, eating at my cafeteria and spending more money than those 50, I should root with more qualitative, getting better tourists, better travelers who will integrate with my country. I think that measure or metrics of success needs to be inbuilt in a policy, and that is exactly what we are trying to do. I really appreciate the guy who wrote the book called The Wisdom of the Crowds, but I still believe that when it comes to tourism, when it comes to brand positioning, and I'll also tell you, let me also say the Honorable Prime Minister is our best brand ambassador. He goes to one country and suddenly everybody wants to go there. Just one, not 50 people, right? So can we raise the level of the tourists that we get into a country? Let us not say, see, when I started my service, I was SDM Ajmer, and Pushkar is where we did 2 Pushkar Melas. And Pushkar at that point in time was known as a backpackers. All the conscripts from XYZ country would come there, and they were backpackers. They hardly spent any money. Today that same Pushkar is become part of the Honorable Prime Minister's one state, one global destination, the 50 global destinations that we are looking to work on in that country. So I think in the last 27 years of my being in the service, that shift in understanding of what is experiential tourism has shifted from viewing India as a backpacker country, destination, to a global destination. And let's not do McDonaldization or the Disneyfication. I know I'm sitting on a US India and I'm saying it with full responsibility, but India has so much to offer which is authentic, which attracts. We are already a magnet. Can we just market this magnet well? Can we just tell the story of this country well? And can we also use the physical infrastructure, logistical seamless travel, multimodal travel, and can we also use the digital and the cognitive stack of India as scaffolds to present the story in a better manner, to enable people to actually travel walk the talk of the story. I think that is what is required. And that cannot happen without collaborators. That cannot happen without connecting the dots. That cannot happen without breaking the silos. And I think that is very, very important. If I can, like, use the entertainment analogy and say collaboration, which is also your seeing the world from the middle, like Gilles Deleuze, one of my favorite French philosophers. I think when you see things from the middle, you are able to also see things at a larger macro level. And I think that is what the Incredible India story requires. A lot of handshaking with a lot of people who bring different things. And one last thing, see, public-private participation, I can tell you, and this is Rajasthan cadre, and that is why I'm using this, how India managed to do fantastic infrastructure public-private participation in the last 3 or 4 decades was also because we had this model templates, right? What ITDC has done, and these are all available on my website, you can download, it will be good capacity building for hotels. We have done the procurement manual for how do you purchase the 50 different tenders that we do for perishable, non-perishable, cosmetics, bed linen, etc., industrial, effluent, waste disposal, everything. How do you store, how do you archive, how do you go out buying all those stuff? I think that becomes very, very important. We have a model today. The model will save the time of our people and help us speed it up, scale it without getting into any kind of trouble, and then also become a template to be able to do stakeholder conversations and stakeholder collaborations. I think that is foundational. So I think the cherry on the cake is yet to come. But I think I can assure everybody, and I can also invite everybody today that yes, we have a substantial stack, which is the cake that we've built, and we invite all of you to become part of the Pareto optimality of the aspirational vision that ITDC and Incredible India share for India's development story, if I can say, for India's tourism story. And I think that is foundational to the aspiration that we have for Vision 2047.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I don't think any 30 minutes are ever enough to, really get into your vision and how all of us should be working together. And I'll just go back to what I said before we started this session. It's always an exciting day. You always feel passionate after a conversation with you. I know I have to wrap up, but thank you so much. And I hope to continue this conversation post the session. There's some really interesting ones happening forward. But again, a big round of applause for Ms. Sinha for being here, for giving us her time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.